Welcome back, everyone, to episode 24 of Priceless Takes. We are live currently from South Carolina in the United States. I am your host, Luka Price. Today, joining me are two profound guests on this show, regulars, one might say, and they do a great job. Oscar Hardcastle and Tyson McMullen. It's been a while since I've heard from you guys, but how are you today?
Very good.
Couldn't be
Thank
better.
you.
Look, we have a lot to get into. Obviously, starting off with the college basketball as a side note, zero perfect brackets remain. I'm not sure if you two are following it very closely, but I've been trying since I've been coming to the States. I've been trying to get into the college basketball, but absolute shocking results. Tonight, the number one seed Purdue got upset by the 16 seed in their respective region. I'm not sure if either of you have a big interest in it, but it is certainly madness.
Yeah, looked rough out there yesterday. So, yeah, today no perfect results,
Yeah,
no
listen,
perfect
there's been a
brackets.
lot that's happened, but we are going to talk about the NBA, and it is getting to crunch time in the season. We're getting into the last month of the NBA season before the playoffs. Most teams have around 12 to 15 games to play, and what better team to start off with the Los Angeles Lakers, who have certainly surprised me. I'm not sure about the two of you. I think Oscar probably isn't as surprised as I am because we did this segment 2 weeks ago where we predicted the next 10 games, what the Lakers' record would be without LeBron James. Obviously, they play the Dallas Mavericks. Tip-off is in about 10 minutes from now. They're currently 6-3 in their last 9 games. LeBron, conflicting reports on his injury. Some say he's not close to returning, while there's been other reports saying he's ahead of schedule, but they have certainly made up for it in his absence. A win tonight, boys, will put them in tied seventh, still in the play-in, but
Mm.
tied seventh, but a loss
Oh
will
yeah.
put them at 12. A loss will put them
No,
at 12, and they currently
no
sit
loss.
ninth. So I want to know from you, Tyson, as the resident Lakers fan in this group, I'm going to ask you first. Do you think the Lakers can make a run without LeBron to the playoffs?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Looking at their schedule, there's besides the Rockets game, obviously that wasn't wasn't ideal. But looking at the schedule, there's not many that threats when AD's playing and when D'Lo's playing, like the whole team. Obviously no AD against the Rockets, which is I don't know. They've been playing well. With Jabari Smith stepping up, big moments. But looking at the schedule, there's not many that threats. There's not many threats, that I'm too concerned about. Um, AD's still doing his thing, balling out, being a powerhouse. So definitely successful win loss ratio coming up.
Yeah. Oscar, I want to hear your thoughts because I have a fair bit to say about this Lakers team. I want to know what you think about if they can do it without LeBron.
I said this, the Lakers are playing fantastic basketball, and um, yeah, it's what we like to see. Lakers doing their thing to try and make that playoffs, make that play in. So, yeah, I think they can. I think they can make a good run here, and I'm gonna. It's a bit of a risky take, but I reckon they're gonna slip into the playoffs.
The playoffs, not even the play-in.
It's not risky. That's not risky. That's not a risky take. That's very
I
valid.
reckon they're gonna make the playoffs. Just I reckon
That's probably the
Lake.
best take we've heard
Yeah.
all season.
Listen,
um,
listen, if there's one,
I like that take. They're playing good
yeah,
basketball. You
they,
can't even
they
hack it.
are.
They're playing really good basketball. If they
They
win
are.
tonight, I reckon playoffs bound.
They are playing good basketball. Look, they're still the best,
And
second
people are
best
stepping up.
team in LA, in my opinion. But Oscar, you hit the nail right on the head. People are stepping up, okay? Anthony Davis in this stretch, 28, 14, 3 assists with 2.5 blocks. D'Angelo Russell,
Mm,
24.6 assists. Not to mention, Russell, Austin Reeves, Hachimura, and Troy Brown are all shooting
snipers.
40% plus from 3 point range throughout this period. And that, in my opinion, is the difference. Now, this raises the question of is this because they're playing well, or does not playing with LeBron make them play a bit more freely and not have the pressure of playing with LeBron James? Because there has been this theory for a long time, guys,
That is
how
blasphemous.
people come and
That
play
is
with LeBron.
blasphemous.
Hear
That
me
is the
out, hear
king.
me
That
out,
is
hear me
the
out, hear me
king.
out, hear me out. I'm not saying that it is true, but I'm saying there have been players in the past who would play well for a team. They would come in and play with LeBron, and they would just turn into absolute bums. Look at someone like Joe Harris, who could not buy a bucket with LeBron, and then he went to Brooklyn,
Joe
and
Harris.
well, he led the NBA in three-point percentage for about 3 straight seasons. Obviously,
You're
this year
talking
hasn't been
about
playing
the
well.
bum Joe Harris. It's LeBron
I'm just
makes players
saying.
better. He
I'm
makes
just,
players better. He's
I'm
made
just
players better his
saying.
whole career.
I'm just
That is
saying. I'm
blasphemous.
just saying. Do you still think that these guys will keep this up even when LeBron comes back? Because I am not convinced, personally.
That's
Tyson.
crazy.
Feel
That's
free.
it's
Feel free to expand. I'm
yeah,
all for it.
like okay. We'll
That's
take
crazy.
example the Rockets game where we had no superstar leader. The organized basketball by the Lakers was horrendous in the fourth quarter. Absolute no structure, no nothing. When there's no superstar on the floor to lead or provide the motivation, the Lakers are pretty clueless. They're just
LeBron makes things happen. He
they're
makes things happen.
they were just driving, looking for the foul, not even trying to like set up something or this, just going straight for the foul. Just send them straight to the line. It was tragic. But when you have someone like LeBron to actually play make, handle the ball, get people in position, because he'll get you points. He'll get all those people points.
Luka, as an NBA fan, you should be ashamed of yourself. As a basketball fan, you should be ashamed of yourself. But even thinking that LeBron makes players worse, there's never been an argument.
Not what I'm saying. I'm not
That's
saying.
what you're saying.
No,
You're saying they won't be as
Let
good
me
with
speak.
LeBron on the court.
No,
That is blasphemous.
no, that's not what I'm saying. Okay,
That is
I'm
blasphemous.
saying no. Listen to me. If LeBron puts his players in positions to succeed, he is making them better. But if they don't make shots with him on the court, that's because there's the pressure of playing with LeBron. That's not LeBron's fault.
Oh,
That's all I'm simply saying. The matter of the fact is, we haven't seen the Lakers shoot this well all year. Now, granted, a lot of these players, D'Angelo's new, but Austin Reeves has been there for most of the season. Troy Brown's been there for the whole season. Hachimura's been new, but I think it's just coincidental. And maybe it's because they're big time players. And, when the rubber meets the road and they got to start playing well, then they put their foot on the gas and they say, all right, let's go. We got to start balling out now. So it could be that. I'm just saying that in the past, people have gone to play with LeBron and have plummeted from their stats. And you can't contest that. That has happened.
say that to the 2016
More
Cavs.
so for
say
role
that
players.
to the 2016 Cavs. Say that to the 2016 Cavs. That is ridiculous.
I'm not
That is
saying in
ridiculous.
all cases. I'm just saying in certain cases, okay? And
Okay.
if we see the Lakers' 3-point percentages plummet, we're going to go back to this episode and we're gonna have a good hard look and see what happens. But we'll see how they go. Oscar, I know you're not surprised, but Tyson, give me an honest answer. Maybe you were trusting in these Lakers without LeBron, but personally, I thought their best result was going 6-4. They could still go 6-4, but I had them more towards a 3-7, 4-6 record in these 10 games. So, are you surprised with how this turned out without LeBron?
No, not at all.
I hate Lakers fans.
No?
I'm just not surprised. You may think I'm joking, but the Lakers team, it's a well-structured team.
Why now, Tyson? Do you think the trade deadline's made that much of a difference to this Lakers team? Because
Yes.
you think, okay.
We had absolute no shooters around LeBron. Just LeBron and AD just going all 40 minutes out on the floor, just sweating their asses off, trying to do everything with no help. And now we've got some help. We've got some shooters, got some spacing, some more defenders within Rui, and it just looks good. So sorry, Vanderbilt as well. Can't forget him.
Yeah. Listen, we'll see how it works out for you guys. But at this moment in time, you're either going to be faced up against the Nuggets or the Kings. And if I were you, I want the
I'm
Nuggets.
not scared.
I want the
Nuggets are
Nuggets.
trash.
If I'm the Lakers, I think the Lakers with AD matches up extremely well with Jokic, especially if AD's healthy. We saw what they did in the Western Conference Finals in the bubble. I'm not saying the Lakers would win, but I'm saying it'd be a hell of a series if both teams stayed healthy. But
They're non-threatening teams.
stay tuned
Well,
for when.
playoffs LeBron as well. Ooh,
Yeah,
ooh,
look, stay
dangerous.
tuned. Stay tuned for what comes in these next 12 games. And if LeBron can make a run before the playoffs, or if they will take the risk and get him back, we're going to switch gears to the other team in LA who has had some ups and downs of their own, but have been making a lot of headlines recently, mainly due to the acquisition of Russell Westbrook. The Clippers started off on a 5-game losing streak in Russell Westbrook's first 5 games with the ball club. But since then, they have now turned it around and have gone on a 4-game win streak, only sitting 1 game behind the 4-seed Phoenix Suns, who don't have Kevin Durant due to the ankle injury he suffered last week. Now, coming up in these next few games, the Clippers have the 7th easiest strength of schedule remaining amongst NBA teams. So, putting that into perspective, do you think, based off the Clippers' win streak and the performances of Westbrook and company, do you think the Clippers have unlocked the key to utilizing Westbrook? Oscar, I want to hear from you first.
You know what? At the end of the day, like Westbrook's been balling on this team. Like he's been playing really well. You know, they didn't. I think they started off a bit shaky. Well, they did start off a bit shaky. You know, using Westbrook at the wrong times and things like that. But you know, I think he's really coming to his own on this Clippers team. You know, I hate the Clippers, but I do like Westbrook and he's playing well. Playing well for you.
Tyson, I do want to get your thoughts considering Westbrook did leave your Lakers to join the Clippers. Does it hurt you in
Mm.
any way that he is putting up these good numbers and good impact for the Clippers? Or are you not phased?
Oh, well, you see, there was a 5-game losing streak, so you think I'm a bit so-called jealous, maybe, of that. No, I don't really. He was all right, but now he's playing better fit the Clippers. For me personally, he'd look better on like a team like maybe Detroit, where he's got no help and just putting up insane numbers, like 40-point triple doubles by himself. Looks good.
Well, listen, it's good to see Westbrook actually having a role on a team that is serious about contending for a championship. Because in the past few teams he's been on, I don't think he's really felt the championship aspirations. Plus 32 is what Russell Westbrook is in his last 4 games as a
Clippers
Clipper.
are absolute pretenders, mate.
Plus
Clippers are
32.
pretenders.
Only Eric Gordon and Paul George are better in the last 4 games. Now, granted, there was a 5-game losing streak, but I wasn't expecting a
Clippers
5-game
are
losing
pretenders.
streak. But that was something that was going to probably happen at some stage because adding a person like Westbrook and making him a starting point guard, you're not just going to start playing well straight away. Now, I think it's better that they figured it out at the start as opposed to playing good and then going later on into the season and the start of the playoffs and having problems. But Westbrook's averaging 10 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. And that's all he needs because what he does more is those hustle plays. He had 4 offensive rebounds the other night. Okay, now I want you to give me another point guard who can consistently get you 4 offensive rebounds a night. I can probably think of one, and he plays on your team, Oscar. He's the only person who I think probably could do it, and that's Patrick Beverley. Apart from that, I don't think any other point guard hustles more than Russell Westbrook does and makes on good impact plays. If you want to look at another angle from this, in the last 4 games where they've been playing well, Kawhi's averaging 32 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, 54, 48, and 94 shooting splits. Now, if we're going to talk about players who are in form right now, you got to put Kawhi Leonard near the top of that list because those stats you can't argue. And I know we're going to talk about the MVP soon, but I don't know if you can definitively say there's a player playing better in the NBA right now than Kawhi Leonard in these last 4 games.
Joel Embiid.
Well, you have a case, but I don't think it's definitive. I think you can make the case, but I don't think you can say it's definitive.
If
Especially,
if we're
he's
going
nearly
off
shooting
like
50% from three. 50%.
if we're, if we're going off like recency, then you can say De'Aaron Fox is a case as well.
I mean,
If you're saying Kawhi, it's like one of the
Yeah,
best. You can just
when
say
Cam
De'Aaron
Thomas had
Fox.
those two 40-point games, I could have
okay,
said he was playing the
no,
best in the
but
league.
listen, but
What is this? You
I'm
can't say, oh,
saying
he's
I'm
a
saying,
few good
okay,
games turns you
listen,
into the bloody
listen,
GOAT.
listen.
Oh,
If there's one thing we know about Kawhi, it's that he can turn things up in the playoffs. In the 2019 playoffs, he scored the third most points ever in a playoff run. So we're not just going to act like Kawhi some scrub who's just on a little tear and he can't back it up in the postseason, because he can back it up in the postseason. Okay, so I don't appreciate that at all.
not with the Clippers.
Listen,
Yeah,
Paul
well,
George himself is averaging 28, 6, and 6, 38% from
Yeah, but we know,
3 point
oh,
land.
they have it. They get on a little run and then they make the playoffs, and then what happens?
Well,
Disaster.
unfortunately, the last time
Disaster in
they
the playoffs.
actually went in the playoff run, Kawhi Leonard got injured, and he would have played against the Phoenix Suns in the conference finals. That's likely going to be a first round matchup for them once the Clippers overtake, if they overtake Phoenix in the standings. And I think Kawhi is going to be out for some blood, personally. I just, I don't know. But we are going to get to the Clippers in the playoffs. Oscar, clearly you have little to no confidence in the Clippers. But Tyson, do you think the Clippers can make some sort of run in the playoffs? And if you don't, what teams do you think the Clippers don't want to see in this playoff run?
the Lakers. But honestly,
Okay,
honestly, I,
I'm going to stop you right
honestly,
there.
I could see them
The
going to
Clippers,
like
the
second
Clippers have
seed.
beaten the Lakers 10 straight times, if you must know.
Yeah, but not with this new team.
So
I hate Lakers fans.
we
So
beat, we've won 10. The Clippers won 10 straight games against the Lakers. 10. And you think they're going to
yeah,
win
but you don't.
6 out of 7? Really? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. Continue.
you guys,
The floor is
The
yours.
Clippers are playoff frauds. You guys have
Pretenders.
so much hype. You get a good seed, going thinking you're all strong. What, maybe get to like the second round, just get absolutely blown out. See
Let's
you
look at what
later.
happened the
Thanks
last
for
time the
playing.
Clippers were in the second round. The last time I remember the Clippers in the
Then what'd you
second
get
round,
to? What'd you
the
get
last
to?
time the Clippers were in the second round, we knocked off the number 1 seed and Terrence Mann a 40-point performance in Game 6. That's what I
Yeah, and
remember
then
the
what
last
happened
time
next
the Clippers
series?
were in the second round. Well, unfortunately, we didn't have our best player. So that happens.
Oh,
That
You can't have
happens.
the same excuse for 53 years, Luca. You can't have the same excuse for 53 years. It's Clippers and playoffs is disaster. It just doesn't happen. Doesn't
it
happen.
just doesn't
They
work
don't go
out.
well. They don't mix well.
Well, listen, the one thing we can agree with the West, it's just wide open right now. I don't think anyone is particularly threatened by the Denver Nuggets, Sacramento Kings, and Memphis Grizzlies at the top of the Western Conference, especially with the Grizzlies considering how they don't even really know what's happening with Ja Morant. He's out for another 8 games, and he'll be back, but that's only 4 games to go in the regular season. So, yeah, look, Tyson, the Lakers, I don't know. They haven't been able to stay healthy the whole season, so it might take something special. But at least they're in the playoff contention. There's a team in Chicago who aren't doing too well, so I don't know how we feel about
I
that.
think I think we can skip past the Bulls today.
Look, we can skip past because we do need to get onto this MVP discussion. And not only is the season heating up into the playoffs, but this MVP
Oh, the second
discussion
OT.
is heating up into the playoffs. In a dramatic turn of events, Joel Embiid, as of yesterday morning, is now the betting favorite to win league MVP. I see Oscar pumping his fist. He called this a few weeks ago, but I'm not convinced. When we still look at the stats, there's still a lot to be decided. Embiid, at this moment, leading the pack, averaging 33.5 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists. Jokic averaging 25 points, 12 rebounds, and just under 10 assists. And Giannis averaging 31.5 points, 12 rebounds, and 5.5 assists. Speaking of Giannis, he came out earlier this week when he was asked about the MVP award, and he said, and I quote, "The thing I don't get about the MVP criteria is it changes." Now, I want to know from you guys, does Giannis have a point? And do you stick with your MVP prediction from 3 weeks ago? Oscar, I'm going to get to you first.
I think we talked about this briefly a couple of episodes ago. It does change. It changes every year depending on who's won it the previous year. So I don't know. It really does change, and I think it is unfair. There's no set rules or set criteria. I think it's just kind of who the voters are feeling at the time, and I think voting fatigue comes into it. I think some years the seedings are above everything, or the points, or the rebounds, or the triple double, or defensively that usually never comes into it. The defensive, the defensive stats. So I think it does change every year. I think it needs to be probably looked at, but at the end of the day, it's what the voters kind of feel, because they look at the stats, they look at some stats, and they vote. I think it needs to be looked at. And I
Yeah,
think Giannis is right.
yeah, Tyson, do you think Giannis should just suck it up, or do you think he's got something to say here?
Look, honestly, both. Like, he has a point. It does change. Like, it sets a new benchmark. Like, starting off with like Westbrook averaging the triple double. Like, that's it. That's a new benchmark. Like, this is what people are capable of. So you should expect it more, which we have seen recently. A lot of people averaging close to triple double. A few more people. But it splits. But then also, you should just suck it up. Like, you gotta deal with it. Like, oh well, just do better.
It is what it is at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's.
I don't think it will change. I think you just got to
I
play your
agree.
best, and
Listen,
championships are more important, isn't it?
I don't think it's going to change either, but I don't necessarily have a problem with the narrative changing from year to year. That I think is because when you look at who the voters are the media. Now, what do the media do? The media are the ones who control the narrative. So, as long as the media have the majority of the power, that's what is going to happen. The narrative is going to change from season to season. Now, what I do have a problem with is how the narrative changes throughout the season, because all we heard for the whole season this year was that Jokic has been the best player on the best team, and his stats have been pretty good, and that's why he should win MVP. Now, what's happened is the Milwaukee Bucks have a better record than both of them, and Giannis is putting up, in my opinion, better stats than Jokic. But now the same criteria doesn't apply to Giannis, and I think this is what Giannis is getting at. And I don't think he's getting at the fact that it changes season to season. I think that he's talking about how it changes throughout the season, because now the best player on the best team narrative's changed. Now it's the best player who's the most exciting on the third best team, which is Embiid, because Embiid right now is 46 and
Oh,
32.
Philly are coming. Philly are
He's
coming.
46
Third
and
best team.
22, third seed in the
They're
East.
coming though.
Giannis
They
is
are coming.
50 and 20, the first seed, and Denver's in between both of them at 47 and 23. Now, I don't see why it's fair that Jokic gets the credit, best player on the best team, but
47 and 22 now, by the way.
Giannis, who's averaging more points, same rebounds, and slightly less assists, doesn't get the credit. That's what doesn't make sense to me. Now, I'm not sure if either of you have a response to that, but whichever one of you does, I would really like to hear your thoughts.
You know what? I think the MVP race it's obviously very open. I think Giannis should definitely be up the top as well. Jokic averaging 25, 12, and 10 is a good feat, and then being the best team, it's a good feat. But I think it should be more open than it looks like. It looks like it's very kind of definitive. I know Embiid's at the top now, but I still think like Jokic is the guy that people are going to vote for, and I think it's a bit more locked in right now than it should be. I think it should the betting odds or the odds should be very similar for all three of those guys at the moment, because they're all playing brilliant basketball and all putting up good stats and winning games. So I think it should be more open than it actually is, and it doesn't look like it's very open. Like the voting is very open. So I don't know. We'll see at the end of the season. We'll see, but um, yeah, I think this should be more open than it is.
Tyson, do you have any comments?
No, you explained it pretty well. Like, it, it's just such a, I'm a picky topic to discuss. Like you have three very good people, very good players, all similar positions, like where they stand in their conference, their stats. I don't know. It's just too tough to decide, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, the only thing, in my opinion, Jokic really has on the other two is the fact he's played more games than both of them. And that's something that the voters do look at because Embiid a couple of
Shouldn't
times,
matter.
well, it depends. I think it matters. I don't think you can win the MVP playing 30 games. So I think it matters to an extent. But in this case, we're talking about 8 games. So I don't think it matters in this regard. But I do see where Giannis is coming from, and if I was him, I'd be quite upset because he's won two MVPs. He's won a Defensive Player of the Year. But if the narrative applies for one person and not the other, I don't see a world with that. That makes sense. But they are all balling out right now. The fact that Embiid's nearly averaging 34 points a game and he's shooting 54% from the field is quite incredible.
It's like
But
James Harden, like prime James Harden. I mean, crazy.
honestly, maybe that has rubbed off on him. But what are they going to do in the playoffs? Absolutely nothing. But we don't have time to get into
You're
that
such a
today.
hater. You're
We
such a
don't have
hater.
time to get into that
They're playing
today.
so well.
Check into our
You can't
previous
be such.
episode or my Instagram where I absolutely tear Philadelphia to shreds, and I cannot wait to do
I
it
can't
throughout
wait
this
till they win some
postseason.
games.
I cannot wait to do it throughout this postseason. But our
I can't wait
final
till the Clippers
topic,
get knocked out in the
our
first round.
final topic for the day is another Western Conference team. It is, in fact, the defending reigning champion Golden State Warriors, who find themselves in a bit of a sticky situation heading into the playoffs. They currently sit sixth in the West, only one game out of the playoff tournament. Andrew Wiggins feared to be out for the season due to personal family reasons. It's unclear what has happened. However, it seems obviously very serious, but we know that based off their championship run last year, he was one of their key players, defending the likes of Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, especially in the NBA Finals. He did a great job, I thought, on Luka Doncic in the conference finals. He's one of the important players defensively. The Warriors have had a roller coaster of the season, guys. 29-7 at home, and they are 7-27, which has now dropped to 7-28 after losing to the Atlanta Hawks just recently tonight. Draymond Green was suspended for tonight's game for a 16th technical foul, and the Warriors have been playing, I don't know, make of it what you will, but Steph Curry had a 50-point performance against the Clippers and they lost by 8 points. You don't see 20 of 28 shooting 8 of 14 from three all that often. They play Memphis tomorrow night, and I don't know. I think the Warriors are in a bit of a tough spot. But, guys, do you think the Warriors are contenders or pretenders? Tyson, I'm going to ask you first.
I don't think it's safe to say pretenders because obviously, like when they were all healthy, they have like a definitive point, like where they're standing. Like they got the sixth seed, defending champs. Obviously, like rude to say they can't run it back, but now it's obviously Wiggins is out, very key factor. Curry only just came back, so they're just playing with Draymond, Poole, and Clay. So they were a bit lost, obviously, trying to find their feet again. And at the moment, I don't think they're much of a threat without Wiggins. So but I don't think you can say they're pretenders. They're just not as much of a threatening contender.
Oscar, your response?
Uh, I agree. I think that team can win basketball games, and especially in the play when it comes to playoff time, they can win a lot of basketball games as we saw last year, and they can win against good teams. I think Wiggins out is obviously a big hit, but we've seen Steph, Dre, and Clay win, and I think that they're more contenders than we all feel they should be. So I think when it comes to playoff time, the Warriors just lock in, and Steph Curry especially just locks in, and Clay always puts up crazy performances. So I think they're more contenders than we all think. I think they're not pretenders at all. I think they can definitely make a run against some of these other teams that are better in the regular season. So Yeah, I do like the Warriors. I don't mind.
Yeah, it's surprising because I honestly think the way Steph Curry's been playing this season has actually flown under the radar. Let's not forget,
Yeah, brilliant.
he's averaging 30 points a game, 6 rebounds and 6 assists, and he's in the 50-40-90 club. And that's not an easy feat. Maybe when it comes to Steph Curry, we're so used to seeing him in that 50-40-90 club, we're used to it. But I still think that he's playing some of the best basketball of his career at the age of 35. Now, do I think they are contenders? If they can't win games on the road, then they can't contend. And that's simply the matter of fact. Now, can they win one game on the road per series? Yes, I guess. And that could be all they need to do. Because in a 7 game series, you have 3 games at home and 4 on the road because the Warriors are going to be in the lesser part of the bracket. So I just am not convinced they can just flip the switch come playoff time. And I think especially when you look at some of these younger teams that are coming in, I'm not convinced that they can win on the road. And if they can't win on the road, they're not going to be able to make it very far in the playoffs. The other problem is Steph Curry's had 2 separate injuries this season. He had the shoulder injury towards the start of the season. Then he had the leg injury, which he most recently came back from. And I'm looking at it from that perspective is can the Warriors stay healthy? There's a couple of teams we can ask that question of. But I'm not convinced the Warriors are contenders. I think if I had to pick one, I would say pretenders. But like we say, the Western Conference is that wide open. You really don't know what can happen. I think if I'm the Warriors, I want to see someone like Denver. They demolished Denver in the first round of the playoffs last year. On defense, they just make Jokic look confused in the way they play their offense. Jokic is often lost. So I'm not sure if you guys have any thoughts about that. Who do you think the Warriors would want to see in the playoffs?
I think most teams would want to see Denver in the playoffs. I think they're just. I think They are the biggest pretenders. Denver
Memphis.
Nuggets. Yeah, Memphis as well. I'd love to see.
Well, the Warriors right now, as it stands, they would play the Grizzlies in the first round, which would be I'd get my popcorn out for that series because that was an entertaining series last year, and the
I think the
rivalry
Warriors will
or
win.
the Dylan Brooks Draymond Green rivalry sort of escalated a little bit.
Yeah. Um.
Mhm.
Yeah. Nuggets or Memphis. I think they'll want to see because I feel like they can beat both those teams in 7 games.
Yeah, yeah. Listen, it'll be interesting to see what you guys think will be the finals predictions. We're going to get to that in a couple of episodes' time, right before we get into the playoffs. The playoffs is not far away. We're heading into the last month of the season, and I still think it's anyone's game at this point. Obviously, there's some teams I like more than others, but we'll see how it all pans out. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is all for episode 24 of Priceless Takes today. We appreciate you being with us. Stay tuned for our episode next week. We may get into some NFL talk, a free agency recap, as there's been a lot happening. But Oscar and Tyson, at least one of them, hopefully both of them, will be back next weekend. Make sure to stay following our Instagram and other social media pages. We do appreciate the follower engagement. And we will see you next time. That is all, ladies and gentlemen. Episode 24 of Priceless Takes. I'm your host, Luka Price. Thank you for being with us today.